So first of all, we are going to discuss about device management, about Azure AD Join devices, about hybrid AD Join devices, and configuring Azure AD Join. So let's get into our first topic, which is device management. So Azure Active Directory enables single sign-on to devices, apps, and services from anywhere. The proliferation of devices, including the bring your own device that empowers end users to be productive wherever and whenever. Now, the IT administrators must ensure corporate assets are protected and that devices meet standards for security and compliance. Now, to get a device under control of Azure AD, you have two options. Either registering a device to Azure AD, and this enables you to manage a device's identity. When a device is registered, Azure AD device registration provides the device with an identity that is used to authenticate the device when a user signs in to Azure AD. You can use the identity to enable or disable a device. Or the other option would be to join a device. So joining a device is an extension to registering a device. Now this means it provides you with all the benefits of registering a device, and in addition to this, it also changes the local state of a device. Changing the local state enables your users to sign into a device using an organizational, work, or school account instead of a personal account. Now, a note here, registration combined with mobile device management, an MDM solution such as Microsoft Intune, provides additional device attributes in Azure AD. This allows you to create conditional access rules that enforce access from devices to meet your standards and for security and compliance. As per usual, I left links to further documentation in the exercise file for this lesson. So let's talk about Azure AD joined devices. Azure AD Join is designed to provide access to organizational apps and resources and to simplify Windows deployments of work-owned devices. Azure AD Join has the following benefits. Single sign-on, or SSO. So single sign-on to your Azure managed software as a service apps and services. Your users will not have additional authentication prompts when accessing work resources. The SSO functionality is available even when users are not connected to the domain network. Another benefit would be enterprise compliant roaming. So basically, enterprise compliant roaming of user settings across joint devices. Users don't need to connect to a Microsoft account, for example, Hotmail, to observe settings across devices. Another benefit would be access to Windows Store for Business using Azure AD account. Your users can choose from an inventory of applications pre-selected by the organization in the Windows Store. And Windows Hello support for secure and convenient access to work resources. Another benefit is a restriction of access to apps only from devices that meet the compliance policy. And another one, seamless access to on-premises resources when the device has a line of sight to the on-premises domain controller. As a note here, although Azure AD Join is intended for organizations that do not have on-premises Windows Server Active Directory infrastructure, it can be used for other scenarios like branch offices, for example. So now let's talk about hybrid AD Join devices. So if your environment has an on-premise Active Directory footprint, and you also want to benefit from the capabilities provided by Azure Active Directory, you can implement hybrid AD Join devices. These are devices that are joined to both your on-premises Active Directory domain and your Azure Active Directory. So joining devices to both directory basically allows IT departments to manage work-owned devices from a central location, and users to sign into their devices with their Active Directory work or school accounts. Now, in this table in the slide, you will see a comparison of registered AD joined and hybrid AD joined devices. So as some notes here, if the device type is personal, basically it would be a registered device, and this registration should be made manual, and the operating system supported is Windows 10. For Azure AD joined devices, the device type would be organization owned, the registration would also be manual, and the operating system supported is Windows 10. And for hybrid AD join devices, this would also be an organization-owned device. The registration will be automatic, and the supported operating systems would be Windows 7, 8, and 10. Now, of course, you will find links to further documentation in regards to hybrid Azure AD Join devices in the exercise file for this lesson. So now let's talk about configuring Azure AD Join. So to manage your devices using the Azure portal, your devices need to be either registered or joined to an Azure AD. As an administrator, you can fine-tune the process of registering and joining devices by configuring this device settings. Now, as you can see, the settings are users may join devices to Azure AD, and basically this setting enables you to select the users who can join devices to the Azure Active Directory, and the default is set to all, so all users can join devices. This setting is only applicable to Azure AD Join on Windows 10, just to bear that in mind. Another option is additional local administrators on Azure AD Join devices. So you can select the users that are granted local admin rights on the device. Users added here are added to the device administrator's role in Azure AD, and global administrators in Azure AD and device owners are granted local administration rights by default. This option is a premium edition capability available through products such as Azure AD Premium or the Enterprise Mobility Suite, or shortly EMS. Another option to configure is users may register their devices with Azure AD. So you need to configure this setting to allow devices to be registered with Azure AD. If you select none, devices are not allowed to register when they are not Azure AD joined or hybrid Azure AD joined. Enrollment with Microsoft Intune or mobile device management for Office 365 requires registration. So if you have configured either of these services, all is selected and none is not available as options. Another option to configure is require multi-factor authentication to join devices. So you can choose whether users are required to provide a second authentication factor to join their devices to Azure AD. The default is no, so Microsoft recommends requiring multi-factor authentication when registering a device. And before you enable multi-factor authentication for this service, you must ensure that multi-factor authentication is configured for the users that register their devices here. This setting does not impact hybrid AD join for Windows 10 or Windows 7. This is only applicable to Azure AD join on Windows 10, and bring your own device registration for Windows 10, iOS, or Android. Another option is the maximum number of devices. So this setting enables you to select the maximum number of devices that a user can have in Azure AD. If a user reaches this quota, they are not able to add additional devices until one or more of the existing devices are removed. The device quote is counted for all devices that are either Azure AD joined or Azure AD registered at the moment. So the default value is 20. And another option is users may sync settings and app data across devices. By default, this setting is set to none. Selecting specific users or groups or all allows the user's settings and app data to sync across their Windows 10 devices. So you can learn more on how sync works in Windows 10. This option is a premium capability available through Azure AD Premium or the Enterprise Mobility Suite. So this being said, guys, this concludes our discussion on Azure AD Join and concludes the lesson as well. And given the fact that this is the last lesson from the section, we reached the stage where we have the review questions available in the form of a quiz and the lab, which of course I strongly recommend that you go and complete it by using the instructions, the step-by-step instructions you have available in the exercise files for this section, and the Azure ARM templates and JSON parameter files. So let's take a look of what you'll do in this section's lab. The scenario is that the Datum Corporation wants to integrate its Active Directory with Azure Active Directory. So in exercise 1, you will deploy an Azure VM hosting an Active Directory domain controller by leveraging a script that you have available in the exercise files. In exercise 2, you will create and configure an Azure Active Directory tenant. And in exercise 3, you will synchronize the Active Directory forest with the Azure Active Directory tenant by using the Azure AD Connect. You will deploy, install, and configure Azure AD Connect.